There we go. There we go. Yeah. So my name is Josh. A lot of folks call me Rav. I am a video strategist and the founder and owner of Moguls HQ. We're a video content agency that works with service-based businesses, coaches, and consultants to grow their business with video with the least amount of effort and headache possible. And so, yeah, I've been in video for just under a decade, and I'm really excited to be here and speak with someone like Corey and just be able to give out the game and share the lessons that we've picked up along the way. And hope that it can really help someone out. Oh man, dude, if you had a soundboard, bruh, it'd be over because I already know you would be going dummy on it. Oh my goodness, I'm already knowing, bro. Yeah. Yeah, Thanks to everybody for being in here and just sharing this time with us. And I'm extremely confident that what Corey and I have to share. It's just been very valuable for us as lessons that we've learned and expertise that we've gathered. And so I'm confident that it'll be helpful and valuable to you as well. So thanks for being here. Mm, I love that. So there's two ways that you can track your revenue. Essentially it's like your top line and your bottom line. Your top line is like the money that's coming in, point blank, period. So if I had a business that was doing 2 million in top line revenue, what that would mean is in the transactions that we've processed coming inbound, it has been 2 million. Your bottom line is what your profit or what the actual money left inside the business looks like after all necessary operating expenses and cost of goods sold. So if I have a product that cost me $5 to make and I sell it for $10 and I sell $2 million worth of that product top line, my bottom line is going to look like half of that. So $1 million, assuming that that's the only expense. For me, what feeding that means is doing one of two things. It's either increasing the amount of top line revenue that you have coming in or decreasing the amount of expenses that it takes for you to produce the same amount of revenue. Ideally, you're always looking to do a bit of both, and branding and content have their own ways of contributing to either of those solutions. And so for me, it's just looking at it from a very tactical and a very cause and effect perspective and being able to consider it as, okay, we're not just making a video, like we're not just making a pretty logo. We're really considering how clarity in our messaging, how presence in different areas and through different mediums and platforms can help us to either increase our revenue or decrease our cost of operations and cost of goods sold. I appreciate you. Mm, mm, Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. I just have to say I love the way that you look at that and that you frame that, because I see like a direct correlation there between, like, when you're feeding something, like, you're giving it something that it wants. And so there's a big communication element and an understanding element there. It's like if you're trying to feed your kids food, but it's not food that they like. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of very similar. It's like, for you to be able to feed your business, you have to be serving it to the people that like what's on the menu. You get what I'm saying? Like, it has to be aligned, because otherwise you can have all the food in the world, you can have all the leads in the world, you could have all of the offers in the world, but if those two things don't like each other, it's not going to matter. It's not going to sync up. So I appreciate that perspective a lot. That makes a lot of sense. Mm. That used to be so frustrating as a kid. I'd be like, facts was not happening. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. When you say, okay, that's a great question. I think, for me, and I'm very glad that you're catching me off guard with this, right? Like, I did not know that you were going to ask me that question, and so I think it becomes a very natural, like, when we're having this conversation as marketers, as business owners, whatever, like, we have to have our own kind of awareness and definition of what the things that we're doing for our business mean to us. I think for me, when I envision branding, it's the work that you do to ensure that the message that you give is aligned with, who you want to be in the marketplace and how you want to serve your customers. And it's almost like, it's prerequisite work that you do with the understanding that once you go into the marketplace, it is impossible for you to remove the mental impressions that you're making on people with your brand. And so the more upfront you can be and the more continuous you can be about putting as much intention as possible into what that messaging is going to look like and what the psychological impact is going to be on your prospects and your customers, the smoother of a journey you'll have and the less friction you'll experience, because you have a central point of alignment. That's like the impact of branding as I think about it. Of course. That's a great question. Okay, so you mentioned like the numbers, and that's a good point, especially fitting with the topic of the episode. So we're gonna look at a hypothetical scenario, um, just so that we can envision like what the impact on the bottom line might look like. So let's say that I'm Acme Company, and we sell widget, right? And so we have a particular avatar in mind that widget is perfect for. Um, and so let's say that we have 100, we have two scenarios, and in both scenarios, we have 100 people, 100 prospects that fit our perfect client in our pipeline, right? In one of these scenarios, they don't know, they just know that we're Acme, right? That's all that they know. And they found out about us through an ad that said, hey, we sell widget. You can hit here to buy widget. In the other scenario, they know that I'm Acme, but I have some visuals to my brand, and instead of saying, "Hey, we sell widget," I'm saying, "Hey, like if you're a busy professional that is tired of fill in the blank, widget can help. Come check it out." When you get to the bottom or the end of that pipeline, right? So where folks have had their sales call or whatever, whatever, you're going to see much higher full conversions through to the end of the pipeline simply because one group of those people in one scenario, they feel much more understood than the other group. And at every point along their journey, they saw consistency, right? They were not repulsed or repelled by a misalignment in what was bringing them in and what was moving them through. That is the impact of branding. It's being able to look at the system on the macro and say, okay, from touch point end to end and everything in between, what are the things that we can do to ensure that at every point of contact, we're touching on the things that make this a perfect fit and help other people realize that this is a perfect fit. So like it factors in with your market research, right? It factors in with your understanding of your own product and how much intention you've put into it and your understanding of the market or the segment of the market that you're looking to serve. Because the better you understand who that is, the more the market has told you what your brand should be. You know what I'm saying? And the more you can lead with that and contribute that as part of your pipeline and part of your marketing, you start to be able to really precisely speak the language of the people that are your perfect fit that didn't know that someone understood them as well as you do. Yeah. Mm, mm, yeah. Right. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Yeah. Yeah. And I think one other thing too that so speaking on like the client acquisition end, to reference how I framed it earlier, like that's very much a direct influence on increasing your revenue. If we want to look at it from the other end, as far as decreasing your operational expenses and your cost of goods sold, branding can help with that too because you're reducing the amount of double work that you do. If every single time you're putting out a campaign, you're putting out messaging, you're putting out advertising, you're putting out graphics, you're putting out visuals, if you are thinking over the visual and the messaging elements of those things every single time that you do them, you are wasting energy. Because if you put that amount of energy on the forefront, or even let's say you segment it out quarterly, you batch it, and you do a quarterly brand review or a yearly brand review, whatever that looks like, you no longer have to have that conversation before every campaign, before every visual, before ever, whatever, because the reference point is already created. It's already there for anybody to look at. So you can open up your operational bandwidth, but you can also reduce the amount of double work that you have to do, which is going to reduce the amount of your operational expenses and the cost of your goods. Because let's say, even if you're selling a physical product, if you're hiring a designer to concept the branding and the packaging for every single product or every single new iteration, every single new launch, you're wasting far more money than you would be if you were to be able to go to a designer and say, hey, look, I need you to come up with my brand deck, my brand product kit, whatever that is. And they can do that work once. And so now, even if you develop a new product in Q3 that you hadn't expected you were going to be developing, you know already what the approach is going to be. And now, instead of building it up from scratch, you just have to make particular modifications for that product. So it's both ends. It's both ends of it. It's both increasing the revenue, but it can also help decrease the operational expenses and the cost of the goods sold. That's just a little bit harder to see because you don't see the money that you're losing with high operating expenses and high cost of goods sold. You just assume that that's the price that you have to pay, but it's not. Oof, dangerous in this game. Dangerous. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 You have high churn. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Oh, shoot. That's such truth. And just to kind of expand on that a bit, um, Alex Hormozy has referenced this, many people do, which is that most businesses are acquiring customers so that they can get sales, when in reality, they should be looking to make sales so that they can acquire customers. because if I have a business with a product or service that I'm rendering, it's way easier for me to sell that to someone that has already bought from me than it is for me to convince somebody that is not familiar with my business or brand to go and buy from me for the first time. And yet, that is what so many of us look to do as the goal, as the mission is like, how do I start working with total strangers? How do I start working with total strangers? When in reality, our thinking should be around, how do I create people that are total strangers into people that are in my ecosystem and then worry about selling them. You get what I'm saying? Like, how do I get them here first? Once they're here, I can just, like, there's so many things that make selling them easier. Number one, you could just ask them. Like, you can ask them what they want and what they need. Hey, welcome to my ecosystem. Glad you're here. I can tell that you're this kind of person, this. What do you need? And they'll tell you, because there's an alignment in values, there's an alignment in understanding. But if you don't have a brand, you can't do that. On the personal side, on the business side, like, the only way that you have that foundation of shared understanding is because your branding aligns with their values, their personality type, their demographic. So that's a so solid. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's what we do. Facts, facts. Mm, right. Yeah. Hmm. Mm, yeah. They all are, bro. They all are. They got their own. My goodness. Yeah. So every one of these platforms, no matter what you're on, they're going to be spitting out data at you, right? And it can be very easy to get emotional about it. So, like, I you post something and it gets 0 likes, 0 views, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, God, the algorithm hates me. You post something else and it gets like 100,000 views and however many likes, and you're like, whoa, like, I'm popping. um for me, social insights means cutting through the noise that your emotions throw up at you in response to the data that these platforms are giving you, and reading it for what it's telling you about your audience and the people that are engaging with it. Because those are two very different things, right? I can post a piece of video content and see that it got me 100,000 impressions, 100,000 people watched it, and I could be over the moon, right? But at the end of the day, assuming you're not looking to be an influencer or a content creator, but you're looking to leverage content to grow your business, that doesn't help you. knowing that 100,000 people saw a piece of your content doesn't help you unless your goal was just for people to see it. I assume that that was not your goal. I assume that your goal is to actually have people that you can connect with, maybe have conversations with, people that could eventually convert into sales, people that could tell you a little bit more about their struggles, their pain points, so that you can empower your marketing and your product development. If those things are not happening, then the content that you're posting, as as much as it might contribute to your pride and your vanity, it's not helping you. And so social insights are the tools and the data and the way that you interpret the data to get a better understanding of those things. Because if you are not pulling an understanding from those things, you won't even know if you're doing well or not. And you can believe that you're doing well in circumstances where you're not, and vice versa. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's gonna do its thing. Yeah, mm, yeah, 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 yeah. Agreed. Mm, yeah, so I personally, I stay in my lane. So I have worked with professionals that manage Google, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, IG ads, to help them be able to run creative and have creative to run. So I'm not unfamiliar with the world, but just a little caveat, like that is not my scene, and I don't try and act like it is. I'm not running ads every day. I'm working on video content every day. But one of the things that I will say is I love that you mentioned the qualitative and the quantitative data that you can get, because especially when it comes to like paid media, um, it's super fickle, right? In that, like, 9 times out of 10 people know when they're looking at paid media, and psychologically they receive it very differently because they're on a platform where their guard is down and they're expecting to be surprised. But when they know that they're looking at paid media, they feel like they're being preyed on, because it's like, wow, you knew I was going to be here, and like, you're just shoving this in my face. And so, like, depending on the platform that you're on, particularly when it comes to the paid media, like, you have to pay different degrees of attention to how native it seems. So like, I don't know if you're on TikTok. I'm not really on TikTok, but I have been. There are some, and like, this is particularly easy with or rather, it's easier and more achievable with like product based ecom businesses. You'll watch a TikTok and you'll be scrolling through your feed, like whatever, and you'll land on something that looks interesting, and you'll watch it for 5 to 10 seconds, and then you'll realize it's an ad, and it doesn't look like an ad. Like, there was nothing about it that yelled out ad, because people on TikTok will genuinely be like, hey guys, like, I just got this RGB remote and I love it for this reason, and the third. And that's not an ad, right? And so we're kind of in this weird space where it's like, you could see that, and you could actually be looking at like so many different things that aren't just organic. Like, on the one hand, it could be someone that just genuinely loves the product. It could be someone that doesn't love the product but uses the product and is trying to leverage their reach or ability to get reach to become an influencer or a content creator. It could be someone that was paid by a brand to act as an influencer or a content creator, or it could literally be an ad that's being paid to be run as media. And so, like, it's you have to be able to reconcile that against the state of mind of consumers when you're making your content. So like, the content that I make personally for my brand, it's very clearly educational, and I do my best to ensure that the person that's on the receiving end of it knows, hey, this is who this for and this is who it's not for. And I do that for two reasons. Number one, because I want to stay consistent with my brand and my messaging, but number two, because I want to train the algorithm on what it is that I speak on and who it is that I speak to. And so, interestingly enough, in the short term, that actually damages my performance in the algorithm, because when I make each of my videos in the beginning, there's some means of basically telling the person that's watching it, like, hey, if you're this, keep watching. If you're not this, stop watching. And so the reason I say that that's damaging is because these algorithms measure watch time. And so if I have a 10-minute long video or a 10-second long video, the algorithms are going to push that more if it sees that people are watching 8 seconds of it, 10 seconds of it. It's going to push it less if it sees that people are watching 2 to 3 seconds of it. And so if I'm in that first 2 to 3 seconds saying, hey, if this isn't you, stop watching, in the short term, the algorithm is going to punish me for that. But I have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that, because longer time horizon, you are attracting the audience that is going to stick around for 8 seconds, 10 seconds, the whole length of the video, when you tell them, hey, this is for you. And so I would much rather take more time to slow down to be able to build an audience of people that actually cares about me and what it is that I'm sharing with them, as opposed to just trying to appease the algorithm. Because what ends up happening there is people will have a lot of followers. They might get a lot of impressions just because people were watching through for a long time. But the people that were watching through, they weren't watching through because they like what they're seeing. They're watching through because they're deciding if this is going to be something that they like to see. And when they get to the end of the video, if they aren't that person, they're going to be like, man, why did I watch this? And then they're not going to watch you anymore because it wasn't relevant to them. And so you can end up with even a large account with a high amount of impressions, right? A lot of views, 100,000 views, but it has like 0.05% like to view ratio, because the people that saw it watched it through to decide if it was worth their time, not because they cared. You feel me? So like, those are the kind of nuances that you can look at emotionally and be like, oh my God, like 1 million people watched my video and only like 20,000 people liked it. It's not really about whether or not people liked it or not. It's about the fact that people don't know. and the only way they can know is by watching it. But if you know who's going to like it and who won't ahead of time, and you can bake that into your content, you can bypass that. It's just going to take a little bit of a longer time horizon. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Hmm. Oh, Leon just mentioned he can't hear you. I'm not sure if he can't hear you well or if he can't hear you at all. I can hear you perfectly fine. Yeah, I hear you okay. Yeah, let's check and see. Okay. Hmm. That's strange. Yeah, try I'd mute your mic and then unmute it again perhaps just to try and re-trigger it. That's very strange because I can hear you perfectly fine. Um, hmm, yeah. Thank you for letting us know, Leon. We're checking into it right now. That's strange. And if anything, what we can do, because I'm not sure where folks might be listening in on, but you can speak and we can kind of recap what you said and then continue the conversation Yeah, I would also tap that signal excellent or signal bar right up by the time clock, and then just go to your video and audio and make sure that your mic is picking up. I can hear you perfectly fine on your microphone when you're speaking. Interesting. Yeah, I hear you fine. Okay.
Let's see if it's audible now. Hey Leon, if you can hear me, just go ahead and type good in the chat box. If you can hear
Yeah,
me, type good.
I can hear
Please.
you. Okay.
All right,
Sweet.
perfect,
Thank you.
perfect, perfect.
Thank you. I wonder.
Excellent.
That's
Thanks so
so
much for getting
strange. I
back to
wonder
our
why I could
attention.
hear you. That's so
I don't
wild.
know. I don't know for sure. We'll definitely see how long my audio has been inaudible at the end of this recording.
Yeah, I suppose we'll
But let's
see.
run it. So if it sounds different, I had to change the audio as you heard. So I got three major takeaways from what you just explained to us, my good man.
Hmm.
So one is to guard our emotions from the, I'm gonna say, the binary view, zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and
Yeah.
ones, right?
Yeah.
That technical, logical view to guard our emotions from the data we interpret from social insights or Google Analytics. First phase is to only measure based on the goal you had intended for that campaign.
Mm.
So, like you mentioned earlier, if my goal was to reach 100,000 impressions and then I reached 100,000 impressions, then I'm doing good on my goal, right? If on another case, if my goal was to create video content that results in sales calls, then the hard numbers I'm looking at is beyond the content and the watch time. I'm looking at how many calls or stories were generated from that particular piece of information. So that's going to be the first key takeaway that I'm getting from you, brother man. If you're going to be observing analytics and viewing that data, only measure it against the particular goal that you had in mind.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've gotten from your from what you expressed is that we can train the algorithm. You said, can you go a little bit
Yeah,
more in depth
so
on that?
it's basically, and also I just want to add some context. I think I know why I was hearing you. I just ended our call on Google Voice that we were on before we joined. I don't know if you had answered on your computer or from your computer on your phone, but I think that's why I could hear you this whole time. So we'll definitely see when we watch the recording.
For sure.
Because I don't know. But yeah, so as far as training the algorithm, it's really just a matter of, so here's the thing. This is People love to talk about all of the nuances of the algorithm, but I think that there's some foundational elements to it that just make it that I use as my sandbox and my rule book, because otherwise it becomes far too complex. So here's the thing.
Mm,
All of these platforms they're incentivized to push content that keeps people on the platform,
mm,
because then they can show those people more ads, then they can get more effective results for the people they're showing ads for. Then they can charge more
mm,
money to charge or to show people's ads, right? Very simple.
mm,
So when it comes to training the algorithm, what I really mean by that is I want to do everything in my power to make it as easy as possible for the algorithm to know where to put my content and who to show it to, so that
mm,
it will get the maximum engagement. Because once it does, they're going to show it more, because that means that they're able to keep more
mm,
people on the platform. A lot of that has to do with
mm,
my degree of clarity on the content that I'm creating. So for example, right, this is a mistake that I made, and I want to be candid about that, because even though
mm,
I do this, like, I still am optimizing my strategy continuously. It's not like, I got it done and taken
mm,
care of, and then I don't have to ever think about it again. No, I have to rent it every day. Um,
mm,
but so, like, one of the mistakes that I made, my primary audience is coaches, consultants, and service providers that are looking to grow their business, right? I put
mhm,
out a couple of
mhm,
pieces of content that are actually more beneficial to creators, right? And creative
mm,
professionals. And so there's a bit of confusion there, because the algorithm starts to pick up. It's like, okay, hey, so like, you've put out a bunch of content, and the majority of the people that have been watching it have been like real estate coaches, other kind of coaches, life coaches, financial
mhm,
coaches, whatever that is. So we're going to keep showing it to those people. But then when I put out
mm,
a piece of content that was meant for creative professionals, the algorithm is going to the people that it already found success with that same piece of content,
mm,
but it's not those same people. And those people are watching that new piece of content, and they're like, oh, this dude put out a video for creative service professionals. I'm not a creative service professional. They're going to stop
right,
watching that video earlier than they would have for the piece of
mm,
content that was good for them. The algorithm sees that. They don't know why they stopped watching. All they know is, oh, they stopped watching earlier than usual. So the algorithm assumes that that was
mm,
probably a bad piece of content. And they start thinking, well, shoot, man, maybe you're not as good at this as we thought you were. Maybe you're not as consistent with this as we thought you were. So they are going
mm,
to stop showing that to folks. And now they're starting to also wonder, did we have his audience right? Or is his audience now a different
mm,
group of people? We don't know. And so being able to make it as clear as possible for the algorithm, like, if you go into it and you know who your audience is, when it finds them and it continues to show your content to them more and more, it's only going to resonate in increasing amounts, because it's not changing. And so
mm,
it's almost like when you run ads, like, if you ever work with someone that runs ads, what they're going to tell you is like, look, we're going to test over a short timeline. We're going to see what works. Once we find what works, we're going to dump more money into that. And the algorithms kind of work the
mm,
same. They're going to move your content around, and they're going to find what works. And once they find what works, they're just going to up the volume of people that they're showing it to that are
mm,
within that demographic of people. And so if you can make it easier for them to see what works without changing it, without varying it, and by continuing to live in that lane, you're
mhm,
training the algorithm to to learn what works for you and what it is that is going to produce them the most success.
Okay, that's good. So that was
Yeah.
point number two. Was now we all learn how to train the algorithm. That's lit.
Yeah.
That's
It's
lit.
not, I mean, And this is what I help my clients with, is that front end strategy. And so for a lot of people, like, that sounds like some nonsense, but this is why it's important, is because the more time that we can spend acting with clarity, the less
Mm,
time we have to spend at the whim of the algorithm.
mm,
Because either we're going to be clear about it and get clear about it, or the algorithm's going to try and do that. I would much rather
mm,
do that on the individual and on a professional and on a brand perspective, than leave it to the algorithm, because you're only trying to do it for yourself. The algorithm's trying to do it for a million different people in a million different industries with a million different verticals, targets, and content types. So
that's
do it for
real.
yourself. Do it
That's
for
real.
yourself.
So what I'm getting is the messaging in your content, the intent of your content, the purpose of your content is what influences the algorithm. Is that what I'm understanding?
Absolutely. And all of those things are going to be informed by your target audience. And like you
Mm,
said, like, what is the purpose here? What is the goal? Who am I
right.
speaking to? The clearer you can get about those things, the more consistent you can be in that realm, the more
Mm.
the algorithm understands who you are, what you're doing, and who to show your content to.
Dang, that's gangster, man. And the third takeaway that I'm still gaining jewels from you, man. This is lit. But the third takeaway I got from you was the point you made about pretty much telling your audience up front who your content isn't for.
Hmm.
I think that is super helpful. I'm definitely going to be using that more often as well in my own content, because, like you said, it up front you're weeding out the people who are not going to find value in your information.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
and once you got a community, an audience around, built an audience around um, what it is that you create and people who ingest that type of content or need that solution, the better your feedback is going to be when you go in and maybe interview some of those consumers and ask them questions about their pain points or what they like, what do they dislike, what are they looking for, what aren't they looking for,
Right.
and those type of surveys, that type of information that you gather, um, could even assist you in the type of products that you develop. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whether it's a product within itself or it's a rollout, something like an add-on that you can create at a later time. At least you know for sure that your consumers are experiencing certain pains, and you can talk to and create solutions
Right.
for it.
Because you got to make it easy. Like in business, it's a numbers game, at a
Hmm.
certain point, but even from the beginning. And so it's like, okay,
Hmm.
let's say I have the same audience of 100 people. If
Hmm.
I go to them, like, and I ask them for survey participation,
Hmm.
I might get 20% of them to respond and actually engage with that. Now imagine if
Mm,
of that 20%, like, there's two scenarios. In one scenario, 20% of my total audience engages, but all of them are my perfect client. Imagine
mm,
scenario number 2 where 20% of that 100 engages, and 20% of those are my perfect client, and the other
right.
80% are people that followed me for reasons that are not true to my offer and my main concern.
Mm,
So if you fragment your audience like that, you might still have that same 100 people. You could still generate that size of an audience, but it's going to be a lot less beneficial to you, because only some of them are relevant to you. So when you go to
mm,
actually engage them and get information from them, it's not even going to be helpful, because they aren't the people that you were ever trying to serve. And that's
mm,
the other, like, we spoke on episode 1 about the danger of trends. That's one of them,
mm,
is that you can hop on a
mm.
trend. Oh my goodness, yay, I just got another 2,000 followers. Cool. How helpful are those 2,000 followers that only it followed you because they liked that one dance that you did, even though you never danced? How helpful is that
Right,
going to be when you go and ask them, hey, how can I help you in your business? And they're like, I
right,
don't have a business. I'm 14.
right.
It's not going to be helpful at all.
That makes sense though. I'm not gonna help you. I'm 14.
I don't have a, you get what I'm saying? Like,
Nah,
but that's
that's
at the
true
end of the
though.
day, like, these people see trends that are giving people a wide audience of 14-year-old kids or a
Hmm.
certain demographic of people, and they're like, oh my gosh, I want a broad audience. And it's like, a broad audience of who? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, who do you want your audience to be? Because the truth of the matter is, it is far more to your benefit to have a smaller audience of people that actually care about what you do, than a big
Mm,
audience of people that will watch from the sidelines and never buy anything from you because they're not who you're
mm.
selling to.
Those are the facts. That's an age. That's an adage right there, man. I'm hearing that from all the gurus and people who just starting out as well. It's like, man, either this is the goal on the front, or the goal on the top, man, that you want to be clear on, as clear as possible, at who
Right.
your audience is, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So essentially, what we're talking about currently is interpreting the information that you get online through analytics and insights for social, um, and then doubling that up when you're when you're attracting the right audience and you have that synergy there with your consumers, then going deeper and actually talking to them, engaging with them to get more information, more insight regarding the type of content or solutions that they need.
Yeah.
These are this is a mixture of quantitative, again, the numbers, which is the analytics and the data, and the qualitative, which is the customer conversations that you're having to get a better understanding of their pain points.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the basic formula, one of the two major formulas, components of market research. So, in terms of analytics, man, let's talk a little bit more about the mindset, man, of analytics. I mean, it's so easy to get discouraged, man. And the last time we talked about this, you definitely blew my hats off, man. So I'm wanting to hear your thoughts on
I
that.
appreciate that, man. I aim to please.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from the mindset perspective, I think for me, it's really just a matter of, so I like, and again, this, like, I didn't start here, right? And so, like,
Hmm.
I would
Hmm.
say the very first thing actually is like giving yourself permission to learn and grow and like get stable, add volume until you get unstable, stabilize there, add volume until you get unstable, rinse, repeat. So like what that looks like is when I first started making content consistently around like, I don't know, 2 years ago,
Hmm.
my I wish that this had been my goal. I wish my goal had been to just make content consistently for the sake of getting consistent with it and being comfortable with that.
Mm.
That wasn't my goal at the time. My goal was, yo, I need everyone and their mother to watch me. I had a series called Trading Tuesdays, and I would
Word.
talk to people about the stock market and investing because that's stuff that I'm into. And
Mm.
the thing was, at the time, most of the people that followed me online were people that I went to like high school with, and
Hmm.
uh and they didn't care. Like, they thought it was cool. They did think it was cool, and they're like, wow, Josh, like, it's so cool to see you doing that. But they didn't care about what I was talking about, because that
Mm.
wasn't them. And it showed, because the content didn't really get engaged with, it didn't go viral, it didn't take off. And so I was like, man, like, what the hell. um but I wish that my goal then had just been to be consistent with it for the sake of being consistent. And so that would be my
Mm.
first piece of advice, is that, like, if you're not already consistently making content, your goal should be to get consistent. If you are set
Mm.
on making content, I don't care if you are consistent for 3 months and literally nobody watches your stuff.
Mm.
I don't care, because it's like, if that's what you care about, that's like saying that you're gonna go to the gym. Snap it up. I guess the light liked what I was saying.
Hey, let's
But
go.
I compare that to, like, imagine you telling me, like, yeah, I want to go to the gym and start working out, but I'm not going to do it because I went to the gym for 2 weeks straight and no one complimented my arms.
Mm. Right.
Why do you care? You get what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
are you trying to get compliments, or are you trying to get swole? You feel me? If you're trying to
Mm.
get swole, your concern should be going to the gym and getting consistent to go, right? It should be
Mm.
getting consistent with your form and then adding volume and reps and weight. It should not be the
Mm.
amount of compliments that you're getting, right? Like, if I were to say that to anyone, they can recognize that that's atrocious, but they don't realize that that's the same thing that they're doing, not being consistent online, because they're not getting the love
Mm.
that they think they should have. Why
Mm.
should you have it? Why are you even concerned with that? You get what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
you're doing this for you. Are you doing this because you want other people to love you? Because if that's the
Mm.
reason that you're doing it, that's a problem. That's a big
Mm.
problem, because the
That's
truth of the
real.
matter is, no one has any reason to love you yet. Matter of fact, you
Mm.
don't even love the content that you're making yourself enough to keep
Mm.
making it.
That's real.
You feel me? So, like,
That's
you're
real.
gonna
That's real.
measure the amount that people love it and you don't even love it yourself. Like, that doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. So that would be the first thing I
Mm.
would say. The second thing that I would say is, I struggled with this. Most people that I meet and speak to about this struggle with this. Oh my goodness, dude. I remember this one sales call that I got on with this lady, and she was like, yeah, so I have a cleaning company, like a cleaning business, and I want to make content around that, but I also, like, make really good vegan food. and I want to make content about that. And like I just started going to the gym, so I want to share my workout journey. And like I didn't
Yo,
say anything, I let her
she
speak,
needs to
but the whole time I was just
focus,
thinking
man.
like, her
Yeah, she gotta focus that down, man.
man. So what I would say is the second thing is like understand that you're gonna be making content about one thing if you want to be successful with it.
Mm,
That does not mean that you can only do that one thing. To this day,
mm,
I still make music, right? I've been making music for a long time. I still make music. I just
yeah.
don't post about it. Now, if I
Mm,
really want to post about it and I'm looking to grow in music again, I will on a different
mm,
page with a different purpose. It's not going to be on the same
mm,
page because at that point, I'm going into it with a separate kind of intention and it needs its own space to shine. A lot of people
mm.
hear me say that and they're like, "Oh, but no, Zac Efron posts whatever he wants. He posts about his puppy, blah blah blah."
Right.
Hard truth: people care about Zac Efron. Don't ask me why. I don't really know anything
Mm,
about Zac Efron, but people care about Zac Efron. Nobody
yeah.
cares about you yet. You
Mm,
haven't given them a reason. Zac
right.
Efron has given them a reason because he's shown them that he's a badass actor. I
Mm.
assume. I don't know. I don't think I've seen many Zac Efron movies, but you get what I'm saying?
I
Enough
get
people
you. Yeah.
think that he's a good actor to care about
Mm,
what he does on his day to day and what music he's reading or listening
mm,
to right now and what his dog is
right.
up to. But until
Makes
you
sense.
give people a reason to care, they're not going to care about every single thing that you're doing in the world. They are not.
Mm.
So you can't start where you see the people that are at, level Z. You
Nah,
can't
facts.
start there because it's not going to work. It's just
Mm.
not going to work. Now, there are some exceptions to that. Like, I'm not
That's
going to
true.
get into them because they're kind of controversial, but there are some exceptions to that. There are.
That's real, man. I mean, that's hats off, man. That's amazing. So
That would
I'm
be
I'm
like the
hearing.
starting point.
So the other piece I'm hearing in that is discipline, man. You got to be disciplined.
Yeah, yeah. It really has
Discipline
to be about the
in the
process.
type of content that process, and then discipline in the type of content that you produce, and how it's communicated, man. Like that's what I'm taking away from this conversation right now, man. It's like for me to be successful online, I have to continue putting out educational type of content because that's the type of brand, that's the type of perception, that's what I want people to come to me for.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna post. I might not post me chefing it up in the kitchen because I like to cook all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because
Right.
it's not necessarily relevant to the message and the value that I'm delivering, the intent behind why I'm online for this particular page, etc. So I'm thinking that's amazing, man. And just keeping consistent with that messaging is super clutch, bro.
I think
That's
the other
incredible.
thing too, though, just a little add on is like a lot of people underestimate the value of sharing what they are already doing in the right
Mm,
context. So, for example, like I don't care what you do. I don't care if you own a t-shirt printing business, right? If you
mm,
go to meet with your distributor so that you can discuss maybe adding in another t-shirt like base to your offering,
mm,
dude, like that is something that you would want to share with people because
right,
it
right.
just shows like, hey, we're really dedicated to making sure that we always have the best products. Seems like a
Mm,
small thing to you, seems like just another chore, another task on the list that you have to get off of running your business. But just the small difference of sharing that, if I was looking for a t-shirt manufacturer and I saw that on your socials, I'd be like, oh man, like these
mm,
people really do their thing. Like if I have a question about whether or not I should go with the dry fit or like a certain kind of fabric, it seems like they
right.
would know because here they are on a Tuesday afternoon talking to their distributor about it. I don't see anyone else doing
Mm,
that. Funny thing is, you could all be doing the same thing. You could all be
mm,
having that. Y'all could all be in the same room with the same distributor
mm,
at the same time, but I didn't
mm,
see nobody else doing it. I saw you doing it. So
mm.
guess who I'm gonna go to when I got a question? It's gonna
That's
be
real.
you. So it's like
Mm,
the things that you're already doing in your business, whatever it is that that might be, they have value. You feel me? But you have to be careful. And I don't want to go too much off on a tangent. But the reason you have to be careful is because there are some things that don't really help you if that's all that you're sharing that you're doing because people
mm,
already expect you to do that. So for example, I see this particularly with real estate agents. A lot of real estate agents, you look at their stuff on their socials and the only things that they're ever posting are open house, property closed, property sold, property bought. And
mm,
it's like, okay, good, right? Like at least you're showing up and saying something, but at the same time, you're a real estate agent. I expect you to be doing real estate. business. You don't get
Right.
any brownie points or any additional trust factor for sharing the fact that you do, in fact, do your job. Everyone knows that as a real estate
That's
agent,
real.
you're helping people buy their homes, sell their homes, whatever else,
Mm,
having open houses, right? So, like, should you share that you're doing that? Yes. Just don't make that the only thing that you share, because we already know.
mm,
The only reason
mm,
that you wouldn't be doing that is if you're bad at your job. So
right.
share the fact that you're doing it, but if that's all that you have to share, people don't get
Mm,
any, like, because if you're one real estate agent that's doing that and another, like, I don't know the difference. Oh, you have open
mm,
houses. Oh, you have open houses. You're both
right.
real estate agents.
I guess that's where you interject the branding and everything like that, and
Agreed.
to
Absolutely.
to distinguish yourself. You know
Absolutely. Yeah.
why people want to work with you
Over someone else.
specifically, while with the understanding that you obviously are doing your job.
Right. Because but like
Mm,
the other people I see do this a lot is barbers. And they're every single day they post a picture or a video of the haircut that they just did. And it's like,
hmm
dude, I
hmm
know you cut hair. I know you cut hair. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't mind, and it makes sense to remind people that you cut hair. I just don't know why you're beating them over the head with it 4 times a
mm,
day. Hey guys, I just cut hair. Hey guys, I just cut hair. And it's like, you're a
right.
barber. I didn't think that you were out like playing roller derby. I thought you were cutting hair. Why don't you tell me something I don't know? You get what
Right,
I'm saying?
right,
Like, why don't
right.
you, like, and it's the smallest stuff that people don't recognize. I remember one of my
Mm,
homies that's a barber. Dude, this blew my mind. He's cutting my hair. And I asked him, I was like, dude, does this get boring? Like, just cutting, the same hair type, whatever. He's like, well, no, because I don't cut everyone's hair different. He's like, I don't cut everyone's hair the same,
right.
right? I cut your hair differently than I cut the person's in the chairs in before
Mm,
you. Honestly, I didn't know that. I thought that it was the same for
no.
everybody besides the style. He was like, no, because like you have a different hair texture. And
Yeah,
so even though like you could be getting the same exact cut as the person before you, I'm going to use a
yeah,
different set of clippers. I'm going to go with a different approach. I heard that. I
yeah,
was like, dude, that's awesome. Matter of fact, you need to cut
yeah.
my hair again because you're the only person that's ever told me that. I didn't know that.
That's
But to
real.
barbers, that's probably like a regular understanding.
Oh, that's a key right there, man.
You
That's
get
a
what I'm
key.
saying? So
So
like you have to bridge the
hold on,
gap
let's
between
pause
the
real
things that
quick.
you know and you take
Mm,
advantage and you implement every day and the things that the people that you would be serving don't know. I know you cut hair.
mm,
I don't know you cut everyone's hair different. Tell me the second more than you tell me the first. Please.
mm.
Please. Because I
And
can't
that's
look at another
where
haircut post, bro.
Mm. And I guess
Please.
that's where education, information, you know, insightful type of content comes into play, and it really kind of gains its power. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Because me as a brand consultant, a brand professional, people know that I'm out here developing brands. But what people don't know is that, well, they learned this year that I also taught kids how to build a business from scratch.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's different. He does
Yeah.
something different,
And
and
like that
little
made me
those
love you
little
more,
things.
bro. That made me love you more as someone that like is not
Mm,
like actively doing business with you or considering doing business with you. You get what I'm
mhm.
saying? Like
Yeah.
if I was, dude, you'd be like Superman. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd be like, yo, Corey, please like save my cat from out of a tree. Like, yo, come help me. Like take my money. You feel me? Like so,
Nah,
but that's like the perfect example. You feel me? But
mhm.
what I love about that is you didn't do that so you could share it with people. That's
Right.
just who you are. That's just
Hmm.
your commitment to bettering the people that you interact with and
Right.
diving into the pits and coming back with the sauce and distributing that. And so like there's just so
Distributor.
much respect to be had there and so much of an alignment of values with the
Mm.
people that you're looking to serve. And I pray that all of us can find the ways to continue to be the person that
Fact.
that can result from, you know.
Mm. That's powerful, man. That's good stuff. Wow, man. Let me take that in for a moment, man. That's amazing.
Yeah,
All
we
right, cool,
powerful,
man.
man. We powerful. We
That's
speaking
that's
power in the
clean.
room.
That's clean. That's clean. All right, so quick little side nugget. So we talked about a couple different things. Obviously, we talked about consumer data, which is understanding their behavior, talking to them to get more insights. We talked about um, like numerical data and that's going to be more of your analytics, understanding what these numbers are telling you, likes, impressions, performance, outcomes, view times, and how we also discuss how these two types of data, consumer data and numerical data, come together that can empower your business decisions, online and offline as well. So in terms of like how do you do this for yourself in business, there are several different factors to consider, like a boatload.
Yes.
So if someone's just starting out, or if they're already in business and they're doing well, one thing I would encourage in terms of the fundamentals, is to certainly review your business model on a quarterly or annually basis, because things change often, and that's okay.
Amen.
Um, but we sometimes we can get to a space where we've made so many tweaks to our business, we don't even know how much different it is now than when it started, and
Hmm.
whether that's leading us in a good direction or if it's actually slowing us down,
Mm.
in terms of trajectory of the way we want to develop our brand and business, right? So on the second part of that, you want to also pay attention to your service model. What ways, where are your strengths in terms of serving your customers, from a interaction standpoint, from a content authority standpoint, from a deliverable and staying in touch post transactional position as well. Um, service Understanding your service model will help you maintain a certain level of consistency, which people love over time.
Yeah.
If you have a high quality shirt, prime example, if you sell high quality apparel, and then in quarter three, you're like, oh, we had to supplement the shirts, with the B shirts, and the quality is not as good, but it's the same design. Obviously that might not bode well with your consumers, because you've already created that demand to meet
Mm.
that demand for them, and you're trying to maintain a supply. So if your quality drops, then that could have a negative impact on your bottom line and the perception that those customers see from you. So
Yeah.
that's very risky. So if you're going to make changes, I would say do it on a aesthetic standpoint, unless you're going in with the impression or the intent to improve the overall quality of the design function or use case.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed.
and
Fully
then
agree.
number three, again, when you're just starting out or you're already in business, is to review your NAIC code. An NAIC code is the specific number that the government understands and recognizes that categorize your industry. It defines what your industry is. So you can just simply search in NIC code for whatever service you provide. For me, it's like marketing, and it will give you that. Do some research on your industry. Trends change, consumers' behaviors change, the market evolves, technology, and all these things. So definitely stay up to date with who the heavy hitters are in your particular industry. Emulate what they're doing well and understand who your competitors are, because that's going to also assist you in distinguishing yourself and creating a brand identity that's able to stand alone.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
the last
Oh.
the last point is the fourth point, which is going to be data. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about this, but because it is extremely important. Um, if you don't have the information, okay, and if you don't have the information to make an educated decision in business, whether that's a new product rollout or just correcting your messaging, if you don't have the data, then you're pretty much, the less data you have in terms of market validity, the less of a chance you have to succeed and win and convert customers on the long term. So those are going to be like the main points that I would encourage, just kind of like how to leverage the numerical and the relational or consumer data to drive your business forward. Okay, these are the 4 points that I would recommend. What do you think?
That's gold,
Well,
man.
I,
That's I think particularly when you're young in business,
mm,
and keep in mind, like, I'm not saying that as if I'm some like 10-year vet, right? Like, I'm
facts,
saying that as
same.
someone in a position right now. You feel me?
Right, right, right.
Um, you really like it's a lot more about resourcefulness than resources, right? And
Facts.
so for me, like my good friend Khalil Rose, he describes resourcefulness, or actually he has a phrase that he uses called bare maximum. And so you're
Ooh.
very familiar with bare minimum, right? It's like, what's the least I could get away with? When
Yeah.
he uses the term bare maximum, what he means is like, how do I maximize the bare minimum that I have? And that's
Mm.
kind of the position that you're forced into when you're young in business, particularly
That's
like if you're bootstrapping or if you have minimal startup resources. And so it becomes a question of like, what are the things that I can do that will cost me the least amount in
mm.
resources, whether that's time, effort, energy, or money, and
Research.
that right that's going to have the biggest impact in my
Mm.
business. And so like being aware of those things and having them as a framework going into it, because I wish I had known this in my first business and I'm just now even starting to know it. If you go into it blind, you're going to be like a squirrel
Mm.
in a field because there's always something to do in a new business. But the things that are the most
Facts.
important for you to do are the things you have to be clear on because otherwise they won't get done. And they're also typically
Mm.
the hardest or the most painful to do, right? Like you have to get sales. Okay, yeah, you should probably be cold calling. No, I don't think I'm going to cold call. I think I'm going to make my website better. Well, at the end of the day, that's not going to help you because you don't have
Mm.
anyone inbound. No one knows who you are. No one's looking for you. I
Mm.
spent a good
Mm.
amount of money, time, effort, energy on my first website for my first business, and it made
Mm.
me no money. It never made me any
Mm.
money. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, but instead of doing the boring, uh, unfun work, unsexy work that actually would have had the biggest impact in my business,
Right.
I did that because it let me feel busy despite the fact that I wasn't doing what was actually going to have an impact in my business. You
Mm.
have to create some means of accountability for yourself so that you can look at this page, you can look at this reference point and say, hey, these are the things that are going to move me forward. And these are the
Mm.
ways that I'm going to measure that. And if I'm not doing that, I'm losing to myself. My team is
Mm.
losing to itself. And
Mm.
that is your fault. Right. But
That's right.
oftentimes it's so easy for us to focus on the things that we can still put blame on someone else. I'm
Mm.
putting all this effort and energy into my website, but no one's coming to it. Google's
Mm.
not ranking me. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so much more
Right.
that you could put there, but it's like, well, at the end of the day, like how many times have you reached out? How many
True.
times have you promoted your business? You feel
True.
me? It's hard to do. It's not as easy to do,
That's
but
fact.
the reason we don't do it is because the second we start doing it, we'll realize that we're the problem.
Mm.
But
Damn,
that's
that's
why you
real,
have to
man. I
do
like
it.
that.
That's why you
Right.
have to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the humbling part of trying to be in business for yourself or with yourself or
Mm.
start a business is the fact that whenever you see a shortcoming in the business, you're looking in the mirror.
Mm.
You every single time.
That's real.
Because even if it's something that you are not a good fit for that needs to be done in your business, if it's not being done, the problem is that you haven't evolved into that or you haven't brought in the person that already is that.
Mm.
The
Facts.
problem isn't anything else.
Mm.
It's nothing else. It's your job as an entrepreneur to figure that out.
Mm. That's powerful, bro. So in
It's
terms
tough.
of man, in terms of accountability, I mean, we obviously gotta wear that hat. So just kind of tying this in to what we talked about in total, man. So accountability is like having personal KPI, which is key performance index, indicators, which are the exact steps and actions that are measurable that create specific outcomes and results in your business and in your life, right?
Yeah.
So from a owner standpoint, holding ourselves accountable to do the work that's going to move the needle forward, period. Um, our lack in that would result in poor performance if we're going ahead and looking at it from an analytical perspective.
Hmm.
um, and then going back to the consumer side, if we're not servicing and outreaching and trying to figure out the effectiveness of certain promotions, then what tweaks can we make to improve the revenue that we generate, the effectiveness of our outbound marketing? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So again, same way to interpret that data. Mindset. You can't take it personal. You can be self critical, but
Yeah.
don't be self-destructive
Right. Amen.
when it comes to understanding and taking accountability. For some people, that's new. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can be a very disciplined and have poor accountability. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Um,
Well said. It's a good distinction.
so that's definitely solid, man, for sure. Amazing, man. This has been great so
Yeah,
far,
man.
bro.
Let's see. I'm
Killing
just checking
the
now
game,
to see
man.
what time it is that we're at. Our original runtime expectation was about an hour 15, and that's pretty much
Yeah.
where we're at, eh?
Yeah, man. We finna get into this last jewel and then open the floor for some cues like we always do because it's important that we get that in.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have people, get their questions answered and share that perspective. So I'm gonna go ahead and big picture this thing. I didn't get to do as much research as I wanted to on this concept of Super Bowl branding hacks,
Mm,
however, just based on my interpretation of how they work, I'm pretty excited to kind of share these ideas.
please.
So in terms of hacks, okay. First, I'm gonna give y'all a formula. Whether you're in business for the long term already or you're starting out, I want you to write these things down. This is the formula to measure customer satisfaction. Okay, so there's three parts to this. So part one is to understand what the features are, the physical aspects of your product, and then what the benefits are. How does your products deliver value to your audience in their perspective? So we'll say
Mm.
features plus benefits equals perceived value from the consumer.
Quick question for you. When you mention features, like
Hmm.
what would a feature look like for a service-based business, let's say, that maybe doesn't have like a tangible product that they're leaving with their
Okay.
consumer? Just for clarity.
That's an excellent question. Okay, so a feature could be okay. A feature could be the platform we use to conduct those initial that initial sales call,
Mm,
right?
okay.
So one of the features that my
Mm,
company has for services is we can book when we book the appointment through Acuity. You receive an email confirmation. You know what I mean? It's branded and professional. Your information is secure. So that is a feature. That application that I'm using is a feature, added feature to my business.
of your
Now the
experience. Nice.
so the benefit to the consumer is they only have to fill in their information one time, so they don't have to repeat and continuously see a bunch of emails. There's no mistakes. If they want to submit payments, they can do it all in one place in one swoop. So for them, the benefit is convenience to the consumer, right?
Yeah.
So now we'll go into the second phase of the formula. So phase two of the formula is going to be function. So what your product or service actually does, the deliverable plus the perceived value, how well do these things align with their desired outcome, is what creates the user experience. Okay.
Mm,
So what that means is, let's say you have a hammer. If you can teach someone three ways to use the hammer versus just the one way to use the hammer, then their perception of the value of that hammer is going to increase because now they're
mm,
like, okay, I can also use this tool for these other tasks as well.
yeah.
So now they're with them actually applying the different uses of this particular tool or function of a particular tool, they're able to get more use out of it. So the perceived lifetime value of that item increases as the user experience also diversifies. So,
Mm,
and then we'll go into the third part of this equation, and that's going to be the relationship here in terms of measuring the effectiveness and the results to performance. So when the perceived value is less than or equal to the user experience, right? If they perceive this to be a great tool and then they close the sale, you got the transaction, and the tool wound up being exactly what they anticipated or better, then that is what results in customer satisfaction.
mm.
And once you get to that space, then it's off to the races. Go ahead.
My question there for you would be, you mentioned um, if it's exactly what they expected or better. My question would
Hmm.
be like, do you think that is there a negative impact to giving consumers exactly what they expected? To put it in a
No,
single statement.
I'm gonna say no because if you're giving them what they're expecting and nothing less, then they're gonna be cool with that. You know, if I'm
Mhm.
going to go to the movies, okay, let's just use an example. If I'm going to Disney Springs, right, and I get the premiere package to go to the movie theaters, right, I'm expecting my experience to be top of the line,
Yeah.
right? So based on what they say to me, they're gonna you can order your food at your chair. You can, have the comfortable seats. Mostly it's the server situation, right? That's the specific selling point there. So if I'm going to Disney Springs and I'm having a good experience and they're giving me exactly what I asked for, right? I'm getting a server, they're delivering me my drinks, they're delivering my food. Simple. They have checked the box. I'm a satisfied customer.
Mm. Mm. Okay.
Very
Respect that.
practical. Very
Yeah.
practical. So that's what I was going to use that to segue, man. But then we got so much more that we could cover.
Dude,
um,
it's so much
so
game, so much jam in these heads.
so that's going to be the formula, okay, for customer satisfaction. Definitely document that, timestamp it later on. You're going to be good to
That's
go.
value, man. That's valuable. Yeah, I definitely measure that. Like actively implement some means in your business of ensuring that you're measuring that consistently, because
Mm-hmm.
you might think that you have a great product and that your customers are satisfied with it.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you approach them about it, they might share some things with you that they felt the whole time. They just were waiting to be asked about it.
Right.
Because a lot of people won't give feedback unless they have reason to believe that you're
Mm-hmm.
actually interested in the feedback.
Right.
So even, like people, businesses send me survey requests all the time. Sometimes I do them, sometimes I don't. But even when I don't, it's still very valuable that the business does that, because I know that at the very least they show the effort
Mm-hmm.
to display that they care about what I think. And so I have
Mm-hmm.
much more reason to believe that if I were to come to them with a problem, that they would care and do
Right.
something about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. So quick interjection here. Let's go ahead and open the floor for some questions. If y'all in the audience have any questions, feel free to submit them. If you have an experience that you want us to interpret, or if you just have a concern on how to do something a little differently, definitely put it in the chat box. We're definitely here for you to answer those questions. And we're just going to have a little fun in the meantime while waiting for those responses. So, Maji, Raf, what do you think about when you watch Super Bowl commercials, though?
So to be honest, I don't watch Super Bowl commercials because I don't watch the Super Bowl. I'm trying to think. The last time I watched Super Bowl commercials was
Son,
probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
okay,
I
okay.
feel like, I don't know. I feel like it was in high school actually, at like somebody's
Mm,
Super Bowl party, because that was the only time I ever went to them. I will tell you though, I am still to this day. Actually, that's cap. I think Super Bowl commercials are like one of the few things that advertising on TV is weird to me. It's very weird to me, particularly just because of the like, I don't like interruptive advertising conceptually,
mm,
right? I'm not going to try and
mm,
say that it's not effective. Clearly, there's been a lot of success found through interruptive advertising, but
mm.
I don't know. I think I will say I do respect the brands that use that as an opportunity to provide some character and personality context to
Yeah.
their business. I respect that a
Mm.
lot, and I think that it works really well.
Damn, that's real, man. Oh
How
man, I
about
feel
you?
that. That was me. That was me last episode when y'all was talking about y'all was talking about Wendy's going clapbacks, man. I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness, dude, did you ever look into that?
nah, man. I'm definitely. I mean, I've been crazy busy, but I'm definitely gonna
Of
look into that
course.
because that sounds like a
Whenever,
wild time.
dude, I'm just Wendy's Twitter and Slim Jim, bro. Slim Jim.
We going
So
hard in the
funny,
paint.
bro. It's so
All right.
wild.
So the reason I asked you because I mean people sometimes I'm included in this group. People watch the Super Bowl just for the commercials, bro, because
Yeah,
they are extremely entertaining.
yeah.
So I wanted to talk about how the type of the approach, my interpretation of the approaches that they've taken over the years to be able to tap into an audience that cares less about football and more about the commercials. Yo, that's
Mm.
sick.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's sick.
wild.
That's sick, man. So
That's
am I?
crazy.
Go ahead. Yeah, bro, I'm one of those people, man. Those commercials are freaking hilarious. They're on point. Every year they just get crazier and funnier,
It's funny because it's almost
man.
like they used football as like the top of funnel magnet, but their
Hmm.
biggest intention was just to have eyeballs so that they could sell the advertising space to like whoever was
Mm,
there, which
yep.
is just an interesting model. It's interesting that that works. Like that's crazy.
I know, man. So, so my interpretation of how they did this, based on what you said, spot on with my very much aligns with my thinking right now. So I call it balance marketing,
Mm,
and that's a form of synergy. So what happened is in the beginning, it mostly focused on a particular audience. So people who like football and are very big into that competitive spirit. So their commercials would be more about like merchandise and sports gear and pizza and beer, just around the community and culture of sports.
mm,
And then so at the top of the funnel, like you said, it was very wide, and then it would get narrow towards the bottom. But over the course of time, what they were able to do, in my opinion, is kind of on the second end. So we'll say like phase two, whatever. So in the second end, they were able to, within that audience of people who like sports, tap into specific customer personas, specific characteristics and traits like humor that people within that audience would appreciate,
value.
and
Yeah.
even bring in more people from different parts of the market to get more eyeballs on the sports or the channel for the advertising and get them more involved in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that regard, they went from starting out wide to thinning out, and then they're going down thin, and then they're widening their scope in that regard.
Yeah.
Um, so their ability to kind of optimize their marketing success to specific personas in a audience is what led them to a massively effective campaign over the years, man. Because those commercials are so entertaining, bro. I
Dude, I
cannot.
just I think the craziest like what was it last year where crypto.com paid millions of dollars to throw a QR code up on the screen. And are you familiar with that?
Nah, bro, what happened,
Dude,
bro? Talk to me.
crypto.com, they paid for the ad space during the Super Bowl and they literally just put up a QR code. And the QR code took you to a crypto.com giveaway where they're like,
Mm,
"Hey, make an account right now and you'll be entered into a giveaway to win like $100 worth of Bitcoin." And
nice.
the amount of money that crypto.com made in the subsequent week was insane because they had people sign up and make an account, and then they were like, "Well, shoot, I might as well just put money in." Like, so many
Yeah.
people just made an account and saw this commercial, so the price is probably gonna go up, so I should put some money in.
Mm,
So, like, they
mm.
gained control over millions of dollars worth of assets. I wouldn't be surprised if it was hundreds of millions, bro. Such a play,
Sheesh.
man, such a play.
That's
I wonder what the ROI
clean.
on that commercial was, like,
Yo,
that's
that's sick,
and it
bro.
was just a QR code. It was nothing else. There was no
Nah,
music.
that's
There was
it.
nothing else, dude. It was a QR
Yo,
code,
that's
literally.
sick.
It was wild. But
Yo,
I
that's
personally, bro, like,
sick.
even if I had watched it, I'm sorry, I'm not scanning no random QR code that's popping up on my
On
feed.
TV, right?
That sounds like a quick and easy way for me to get his act.
Facts, bro.
No.
Super scam, boy. They finna get you
Right.
heavy. But
They've
fortunately, this was a legitimate campaign.
right. But just imagine, like, folks hacking the air signal and, like, just putting a QR code up, and everyone's like, "Ooh, I wonder what this is." Dude, no, I would not be caught.
No. That's
Mm-mm.
crazy. I'm really curious. I wonder how they identify that opportunity. You know what I mean? Obviously, they had to look at the number of people who participate in the festivities, etc.,
Yeah,
during the Super Bowl to take advantage of that data and leverage it
yeah.
to make a decision.
I think it
You know
also
what I
just
mean?
was an awareness
That's
thing, you
interesting.
know, like, it's weird because, like, in the last few years, like, crypto has hit a critical mass awareness, and so, like, the other space that I think that is kind of on a in a similar trajectory is, like, augmented and virtual reality. So, like, everyone is
Mm,
familiar with the concept of augmented and virtual reality now, and I think that
mhm.
very soon those 2, I mean, augmented reality already more so just because, like, filters like Instagram and Snapchat filters were like the slow setting into like an AR world and AR experiences. Um, but yeah, like I feel like the virtual reality is on its way there. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I think it's on its way to where folks are going to start looking to take advantage of just that critical mass on the awareness front and just start looking to push it as a product and as an ecosystem.
That's
Which
real,
is
man.
insane, dude.
Dang. Are you seeing any opportunity or looking for any space to get into in terms of virtual reality, in that realm, metaverse? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So, yes and no. I am an opportunist for sure. I know that there's going to be there's already so much opportunity there. At the same time, I don't know that it's a good fit for my value set because I kind of hate it. I don't like the potential for misuse and abuse. I don't like the fact that we as human beings are looking at, because it's funny. Like I was at what was it called? I don't remember, but it was an online summit regarding virtual reality and augmented reality. And dude, there were so many businesses there that were all sorts of different elements of the marketplace. Some of them were artificial intelligence engines. So like there were some that basically they have character engines for NPCs in virtual reality games. So imagine you're playing a VR game. Like right now, if you were to walk into like a massively multiplayer game, and let's say you walk into a bar in that world and there's like a bartender sitting there, and you just walk up and he's like, "Hey, can I get you a drink?" And it's like, "Oh, okay, like let me order a fake drink and I'll drink in the game," whatever that is.
Right.
So company that makes an engine that's meant to be plugged into MMOs, massively multiplayer games, and what their engine does is it gives memory and personality to those non-playable characters. So basically, like imagine if you're in a game and you have an avatar, and you went to this bar on a Tuesday, like in real life, and then you stopped playing the game, and then on a Friday you went to that bar, but your avatar was wearing a different hat that time. So this company makes a game engine that you can use to plug into, like, say, the bartender, so that when you come back on Friday, it gives you a personalized experience, and the AI bartender is like, "Oh, hey, man, like, you had a different hat on, like, 3 days ago when you came. I like this one
Yo,
better."
that's
But the
next
crazy thing
level,
is,
bro.
if it was you and you had on a suit and a tie both times, he would say something different to you. He might be like, "Oh, hey, man, like, love that you busted the tie out again. I hope you never stop wearing it." And the craziest thing was there was a
That's
vocal
so
element to it too.
personable.
There was a vocal element to the point. There was a vocal and emotional element. So like it had a vocal engine so that you could hear like endearment in his voice. But there was also an emotional element so that if I walked into that bar the first time and I looked at him and I don't know, said something rude to him, and then I came back, he would remember that and he'd be like, "Ugh, like, what are you doing back here?" And you could hear that he was upset. And so like all of that is AI, right? But kind of a
Yo,
side tangent. But the reason that I
that's
bring them up is
bananas,
because
though.
what I don't like about VR is the fact that every single time I was speaking with, or we were having a Q&A with one of these businesses, people were asking them questions, and every single time question came up about ethical concerns. They were like, "Hey, like, are you concerned that there will be abuses? Are you concerned that there will be addictions? Like, whatever." And without
Right.
fail, every single CEO, every single founder, every single CMO, whatever it was, they all said, "Yeah, no, we know. But like, what are you gonna do? Like, people
Right.
are going to be addicted to this. Like, people are
Yeah.
going to have their lives ruined because of virtual reality,
Yeah.
because of
How do you
augmented
mitigate
reality."
that?
They said, "We already know that, but the technology is
Mm.
here, and there's nothing that
Mm.
we are going to be able to do to stop whether or not it becomes iterated in everyday waking normal life. So we might as well make it
Mm.
good as hell." I don't like
Wow.
that. I agree with them. I
Mm.
don't know that you're going
Yeah.
to curb that at
I
all
can
because
see
that's the
that.
natural progression of technology and it always has been. But I don't like the fact that we are so brazenly nonchalant about the fact that the technology that we're implementing, while exciting, will ruin people's lives. I
Mm.
I I have a problem with that I can't
Just don't
seem
sit
to
right.
overcome.
Yeah, I get that. I can definitely see that as a concern. Me and my homies, we talk about that often. Is that what happens when that kid is no longer going outside, that adult is no longer parenting.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
they have this alternative reality that they can go to at any point in time and almost escape life.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, in a therapeutic type of perspective, in terms of like clinical practices and stuff like psychology, there might be some opportunities to create some zones for them, safe spaces, if you will,
Yeah.
so people can cope with their trauma more effectively, independently. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And that is
Again,
kind of the bright side of it for me. I totally
yeah,
agree. Yeah.
I mean the
It's just
concern is still
tough.
there though.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's
tough, man.
definitely
Because
double
the
edged.
thing about humans, like create problems and then we create solutions for them, and then those solutions create new problems, and it just keeps going deeper and deeper. And the whole
Mm,
time we think that more and better technology and more and better evolution and iteration is the solution. And
mm,
I think it's both. I think
yeah,
every problem set that we seem to solve with technology will always create another infinite amount of solution and problem sets, and like we just keep kind of falling down that rabbit hole. So like on the one hand, it's kind of
yeah,
inevitable. So it's silly for me to have reservations about the
mm,
way that the world is moving, because how else could it move? Like it
right,
had to move forward, and it's gonna be good and bad on both sides. It's just gonna become more on both ends, right? And it's gonna keep
yeah,
oscillating between the two. But I don't know, man. Like I feel like everyone has to have their line somewhere. Not everyone
mm,
does, but I feel like I have to, just to know that I'm really living a life of intention and a
mm,
life of values. It's like
mm.
you have to be willing to die for something, because otherwise, like, what are you really living for? That's the
That's
way that I see it.
real. That's real. Nah, I mean, but man, that presents a very interesting challenge though, because what you explained in context of what we discussed earlier, um, is that in the rabbit hole of creating data and then consuming data to create more data to consume, then we're kind of becoming too well. If we can get lost in that, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? In that
agreed.
world, quite literally, because we're talking about virtual reality, and that's
Yeah,
a whole crap ton of data that they analyze to create those experiences. Um, but yeah, man, we can literally get lost in that. So that's why having those boundaries that you discussed earlier, man, and having those core values and understanding, like, who do you represent? What is, how can you guard yourself from the overconsumption or the self destruction of over consuming data, man? So,
yeah.
absolutely agree with you 100% on that,
Hey, I
man.
just
So,
pray for everyone here, including ourselves. Like, I just pray that we all can
facts.
find our personal solution to that,
Mm,
whatever that might look like.
amen. Shouts out to the God upstairs. Facts. All right, man. So we are going to go ahead and wrap this up. Shout out to everyone again with the clapper thing. If I had it, it'd be on point with the right.
I love it. I love it.
Yo, shout out to everyone who stayed with us for the whole time. We certainly appreciate everyone for participating and contributing through their attendance for this particular recording of the episode. We are really excited about what's to come. The next episode is going to be in September, and that's going to be on the importance of visual identity. We will have a guest speaker, just myself and the guest. So Rav will be in the background or doing his own thing, probably serving customers and leveling up.
I'm gonna do my
um,
best to be here. I'd love to see it.
for the
I'd love to
next
be here.
episode, man. But you have my gratitude and my greatest thanks. Shout out to you. Appreciate you, Rav, for continuously showing up in your business. It inspires me. And showing up for our collaboration, it further inspires me and encourages me to keep going and growing in business, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Of course, I appreciate you for the collaboration as well, man. I love doing this. And honestly, like, I think I mentioned this to you last time. Like, doing things like this is um, it helps. It's part of me fulfilling my dreams that I had as a
Mm,
kid. I always wanted to be able to just go on journeys and share what I learned with people, you know, and we're doing that right now, and we've been doing that for some time, and now we get to do it together. And I always wanted to make friends and have friends and close relationships doing that, and I'm seeing that become a reality even on nights like tonight. So it means a lot
Let's
to me.
go. Big game, bro. We out here getting swole on them.
Straight up, straight up.
That's lit, man. All right, brother, man. I will catch you on the flip side. Again, God bless to all the listeners, for yourself, for tuning in and watching the replay. I hope you took notes for sure. Leave us some feedback, in the comment section below if you're watching this on YouTube. And just stay in touch. We got a lot more coming. And we wish you the best, all the best in your endeavors. See you next time.
Amen.